the snapification of NIP. No, it's actually it's NIP. It's NIP. It's what NIP showed up with here at PGL Astana. I think that they still have a lot to give. It's a good point that's twofold. It's one that they're already a competent enough team that they're able to beat the teams that they're supposed to. I mean, beating G2 and Ho2 to me is not a huge accomplishment, so I'm gonna throw that out there that they made playoffs, but the one thing is that they beat a VP team that has kind of been consistently in the top 10. I'm not like VP to me was a fluke run at Katowice. They definitely were a little bit stronger than they showed that they would be in the future. But NIP defeating them, and also the way that NIP win these games with Train being a really good map for them, it's clear that Snappy is in the lab. He's working on turning a new map into a home ground for him and his team, that he's working with international pieces, ones that we know are pretty good, like decently good, but let's just make this abundantly clear. He has no top 20 players on his team, and they are playing like a team that are in the top 20, which I already think is a testament to how good he's been calling it. And I would give a special shout out. People know I love Wrinkle already, or I think a lot of people do, but I never sold my Shush stock. I never once decided to sell on it. Okay, even when he was on that heroic roster, and at times he was the lowest rated player, there were only just moments where I was like, I feel like he's getting pulled maybe away from his bomb sites for too long, and then they lurk out on him and he dies, and it's like, I don't think that's his fault though. And I'm gonna say I think that's entirely how like Shush in that heroic team had to give up too much. Now he's just taking the onus a bit more on this team. He's still playing some of those anchor positions, but I think he is now the guy you need to look at if you want the blueprint of how to be a B anchor on Train. Because Magisk is exactly how I don't want my B anchor to play. Okay, because he just sits in the same spot 9 out of 12 rounds. He'll get maybe one kill, but once they realize that that he's playing there, then they're just gonna start flashing him or just pre-aiming him. But Shush is so mobile. He's just so active with his rotations, and he kind of has some of that 2022 heroic blood in him, where he takes risks. He takes risks, but he does it in the flow of the team, which is so important to just give NIP an extra edge, and also to uplift the fact that Erasdos and Ujerks are not really performing at the level that they were on Saw. So I'm happy that NIP did well at this event already. I doubt that they're going to win against Spirit. I don't think that really is I think that's too crazy for them. But I think that they've already amassed enough VRS points that they're really close now. I don't think they're going to get the direct invite to everything, but they're really close to getting enough Valve ranking points that after the major, it's not going to be this like open qualifier slog. Hopefully they just get like seeded deeper into these qualifiers. At least they're I assume they're going to have more chances, but you never know with VRS and also how things are going to shake up after the major.
Yeah, that makes me really happy just in the isolation of like just looking at Shush, right? Like, because even back on the heroic days, I feel like he was really underrated. Like, I remember when we were doing all the online broadcasts for like all the DreamHack Opens and stuff, and it was kind of heroic on the up, and even on Train back then, like I loved how they approached the map, like super proactive, really, really like interesting pace. Obviously, completely different at Game Leader. But if I recall correctly, I think the game versus VP like Shush really popped off, right? So it was like really cool to see him after the kind of fallout of that ex-heroic roster, like maybe potentially finding a more consistent new home. I'm interested in your thoughts on like Snappy and how he's calling in this, right? Because like I'm willing to give him not a pass for the whole Falcon situation, but like let's just ignore that for the sake of
it doesn't count.
Keeping his kind of narrative alive.
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
No, obviously you can't remove that. But just like looking at him on Ents and being able to work with like a lot of newer maybe players that weren't super experienced, like he's kind of got a little bit of a mixture of that. Like I'm not counting Shush in that equation, but players like Wrinkle, the two guys from Saw as well, right? What was your take, Mario, on like how he's being calling now in this NIP lineup? Like, do you feel like it's substantially different? Because I feel like he was really good at like out of spawn calls. Like that was my kind of, I guess, like hallmark point when we were looking at him on Ents. Like, I guess 2 years ago now, right?
Yeah, that's still prevalent. He still calls more rushes than some of the top teams do. It actually came back to bite him in one of the series that I was watching. Oh, the Spirit one. I think the very last round, round 12. I remember the round because it was one we brought up for a highlight in the post game segment. It was everything was going really well. They could have won the half 8-4 T side train versus Spirit, or maybe it was the other way around, 5-7 or whatever it was. But they had a really solid half, and then they just went for a full-blown rush against a half buy from Spirit, and that was like, that's like the part I don't like about Snappy all the time. I would really just slow it down. This is a round to just take map control cleanly, don't cut corners, but he wanted to go a little fast. But it also works really well. I mean, I can't complain about it too much because I think his team's B exec is extremely good. They still, I think he takes map control a little bit more, or he's forced to against some of these guys. It kind of is still a Snappy style. I'm sure that he'll be mad at me for even saying that it's some of the same stuff that I'm seeing, but for continuity's sake of recognizing what he was doing on his old rosters and seeing it now, I'm still seeing some of the same stuff, but that's also they're pros and cons to that stuff. I want to also, though, clear his name a little bit for the Falcons roster, because that team was considerably better on T side than CT side. I remember watching them actively about that. And what I always got mad about with Falcons last year is they tried to play perfect CT sides where people are just holding, they think that they're going to get their one and done every time. They played more like they played like a 2017 Counter-Strike team on CT side instead of being more like I think everybody's a little bit more active than they were 8 years ago on the defense. They just will push, but that Falcons.
If you get the fucking dossier, you scratch off the thing. Wait a minute, Falcons. This is just Astralis 2017. Sonic's like, what the fuck? Oh, he's got me.
No, that's exactly. That's the problem I had with them. I remember specifically looking it up at one point in last year where their T side had something like a 47% win rate, which was bad, but then their CT was like 40%.
Oh,
so
shit,
I was
right.
like, it was like their CT side was horrendous. So I was just like, this is a player quality issue to me, and an idea, like a philosophical thing about their TT side, because they just try to play too perfect. Like everything needed a flash, everything needed a teammate. But now you watch teams and individuals take risks now. Individuals take risks on CT sides. If they see a gap in a defense or in an offense, they'll go for one little pick or whatever. But it was just, I joked with Dupree about this because now we get to talk to him all the time. I was like, when I watched you guys, I was watching a CS2 team, and now but CS2 teams, everybody's jiggling everything. You have to just AD all the time. You're just always moving left and right, always moving left and right. But I'm pretty sure if you just took the pure APM of a player on that Falcons roster last year, it was 70% of what any team that has an average age of under 25 was. Okay, they're pressing less keys on their keyboard than anybody else in the top 20.
Okay. I like the way you've done that as your version of in football, where they track how much people run and the work rate. You found your own CS version of that to diss them. They're standing still, look at them. You ain't bloody doing anything. Get fucking out there on the map. I love this Maui the fucking coach. This is the way you should come in. You should do a skit with yours on it.
It's more
knees up, lads. Come on. 2 rounds.
I mean, I almost just bring it up because it's just thinking of MOBAs or RTS games where you just need higher APM. MOBAs is a bit more debatable, but you don't want a guy with if you have a guy with 90 APM on your MOBA game, that dude is a bot.
But I know what you mean. As in, if you think about in Astralis when they did just have amazing CT setups and crossfires and people push it. It is true. Back then, obviously, CSGO was the angle holding game in comparison to CS2. The joke is, if people don't know, by the way, I'll just say this once and for all, it'll tilt me if I don't, which is compared to 1.6, CSGO's the stupid, what the hell, everyone's just peeking around corners. But the difference is, it's more 1.6 was really angle holding. CSGO's in the middle, and then CS2 was outrageously for the people peeking in. So it is true. If people don't know, one of the reasons you don't actually see pros complain that much about all the jiggle peeking is the joke is now the meta is the CT does it too. And like, if anything, the CT tries to peek on you as a CT, as your, like, obviously the example is like Banana on Inferno. They peek on you now, mate. Whereas before, they used to just sit on that corner the whole time. So it is sort of true. I will say that. And I do think in that sense, like, the real problem with Falcons is they had so many other problems than like things like that I think they just wasted all their fucking time on the roster and what's going on with this player and does the AWP work. And I think they just had a million things they were trying to fix all at once. No, by the way, on the NIP one, I'm with you. I actually do think one of the saddest things this year is that it's not until now that we're even getting to talk about NIP. The only time NIP came up this whole year was people saying stuff like, lol, they just failed another online thing, or they just won like 17 CCTs in a row, but it was the 18th one would have got them the invite to the LAN, like, which, by the way, is some like crazy like karma for fucking Snappy. Because remember, in Ents, he was the guy every single Blast circuit. Like, why is Blast a qualifier into a qualifier into a qualifier into a qualifier? Then you get through a qualifier. If you win that qualifier, then you get to be in the same spot MIPR is in last place. Like, he used to find that. So then he went and got the bag, got fucking nothing from it except the bag. And then now he's back in the same scenario where he has to win 1 million online qualifiers. And remember, then they had that thing where, even though everyone made fun of them because they failed it, they did that thing where they had the Jax lineup to like game the VRS system a tiny bit to get some. But the worst thing about that was, I actually think if you look in totality at what NiP tried to do with their lineup, I said this on a Feed the Trolls episode at the beginning when they first made the roster, I actually sort of fuck with it. Because we all made fun of teams like Falcons and the Heroics, where all you do is you just buy another 3-command core, don't you? So Heroic bought the Sangal one when theirs got bought by Falcons, right? You just buy another core, and then you cynically, like Heroic did, you don't plan on using all 3 players, same as in NIP they weren't going to eventually, right? But here's the difference. NIP actually tried the old method of just building a roster. They just picked players they thought would be good based on what money they had. And if this had been the old circuit where you could have gone straight to a LAN, maybe they would have done this 2 months ago, but they didn't even get the chance to because they had to use the scuffed Jax lineup online, which then could never qualify, and so they could never get to these LANs. So the sad thing is, I actually always thought this roster looked all right. I will say it's nothing crazy. Like, obviously the main problem, as you pointed out, Maui, is so far both the Portuguese players haven't really sort of like delivered what you'd hope. Like, if people forget, in SO, I thought the Udrix guy actually was good. He actually did look like he had it. The Aristose guy, he was a bit whatever. He's all right. I don't hate that move in the sense of like, I don't always think in terms of complete rosters now, mate. For me, you can keep the core of this roster. You can just get another player. I think of that way, you know. So as long as the core's there, and I do think the core is there. It's just the difference is it's not the traditional core of like star players. Like the core of this team would be the aforementioned players you mentioned. Snappy the IGL, Wrinkle the AWPer, and then Shush like the supportive element or something. And the key thing is, by the way, and I've always pointed this out, mate, if the 2 players I have to recruit for are just traditional rifle core players, those are the most abundant in all of Counter-Strike for an international roster. Like, that's why I actually thought the Portuguese player pickups were genius. If one of them works out, you keep that guy. If neither of them do, by the way, you can just replace these players. There's plenty of Danish players, and there's 1 million, it's an international squad. The key thing for me in this team is the 2 parts is you need one, Snappy to actually get respect again as an IGL, because then you could potentially get people to join, or by the way, one day maybe he can even be in a G2 or something. I actually do think he's already showing that. I think actually when this NIP has some decent results, he will sort of reclaim some of his reputation, because I do think IGL is the role, most of all, you can't really write off in the way we do with players. Because, like, put it this way, later on in this show, I will reference a former star player where it's like, he's not close to that level anymore. The problem is, being star player, first of all, it's like really fucking super like specific to skill, isn't it? And like actual like performance level. Whereas IGL to me is more like, what's your read on the meta? Can you lead your current set of players? So the difference is you can have a down year as an IGL, then come back and be potentially the best in the world. I think that's actually still possible.
I think that's great about this NIP roster is that the conversation we had last year about who's going to replace Hooksy, Snappy was right there for the taking for quite some time. And now Snappy just proved to everybody that that conversation should still be going on as a Snacks replacement. Because even in just the style, like Snacks calls so many rushes and almost like for my money, for my taste, too many rushes, too many set pieces, you know, like, but Snappy does it with a blend of going in and out of mid rounding and knowing when to change things and everything. He's like he really is like a refined version of Snacks. And I never thought I'd ever say that in any context 3 years ago. Doesn't even seem to make sense. But here we are where Snacks is just still trying to be an IGL, and Snappy still showing that he actually is.
And by the way, I actually think the wrinkle angle is really interesting because, one, if you ever watch him play, I actually don't think he's actually going to be like the true superstar AWPer, as in the one who puts up the crazy like statistical numbers. To me, that player is more like a Woxic type AWPer, where it's like it's the impact they have in the round is what's baller, though. They go for the fucking really hard shots, or they go for the swag shots, and like as a result, like I've always thought, like Woxic doesn't do like even Shiro numbers, mate. But the difference is he'll like might win you like 3 rounds in the game just himself by going for some super ballsy 1v1 or something crazy. So the reason I find that really interesting is actually, if you've ever looked into it, and spoiler, I can tell you, he does actually say this himself. Snappy technically has almost never had star players. Like if people are going to hear that and go, "What are you talking about? You had to speak." No, if you ever go back and look, they become star players after playing with him. Like, he doesn't get them when they're... That's why the biggest karma of all, like, sadly, for choosing to leave Ents, was that he was going to do it to get Nico, then he didn't get Nico. And then the second they kicked him, they got Nico, which is like... That's why the universe is like, listen, mate, you can't cheat this game. You're just who you are in this character. You stick to your role, like me with telling Pimp earlier on. But basically, you stick in your role where you're okay. You're the guy who brings up the talents, and then they take the talents from you, and they win with the talents, okay? So, sad, he's back in that same spot with Wrinkle again. But I'll tell you what, if you wanted to pick an IGL to give a player like that, first of all, room to be that sort of player, this is the right IGL. Secondly, the right sort of up-tempo team. And then thirdly, I actually think with a player like this, you need a good IGL as well. They're not just going to win the game on their own. You need to put them in the right positions and guide them, etc. So, by the way, I'm a fan of this team. I already thought Shush was like slightly overqualified to be on this team anyway. I was kind of shocked. By the way, that's actually the part I was low-key shocked by, except I'm not. Like, if you want to really know how much Magisk on Falcons is just living off like CS royalty and the name Magisk TM, and we're all in our brain thinking of Astralis and Vital. Here's how you know. Because, mate, if anyone deserved to get kicked from that team, it was probably Magisk and Shush come from Heroic, not like fucking Madden gets kicked for Tessus. Every player I know who's playing with Madden told me like he did all the fucking hard work, all the dirty work. But that's the one where it's like, yeah, but the difference is who the fuck's Madden, whereas Magisk is fucking Magisk, his name's up in lights, he has all the accomplishments. So, no, here's the thing, I actually think this is like a canny NiP squad. Like I say, I don't look at it as it has to be the finished product. If they just fuck around and they're competitive, it re-establishes Snappy, Wrinkle has some good pop-offs so people know he's skilled. Mate, one more player change, then we can start talking. Because that's the problem. I do think they need one more rifler. The one rifler away.
Oh, what sucks is that I tweeted this earlier, but a guy that's popping off for Gamer Legion right now is Rez, and they had that guy. They just had that guy, and but he just was never in a good team. If Rez was here for you, Jerks, this team would kind of bang. Yeah, this team would actually be pretty sick right now. So. It sucks, but that is, NiP is always going to NiP a little bit, I suppose.
Okay.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.